everyone, it's Hope here, and today I wanted to talk about the first indie animated series I wish to create on this channel, and it's called Calathea, which is a series based in the Pokemon universe. Before I get into the characters though, I wanted to explain how this idea came along and the delicate steps one should take when creating a fan series. In the beginning, this story wasn't even supposed to be the first of my future cartoons I was gonna make, because before I even thought of this idea, I had 3 other ideas I was passionate about creating. One of these stories was about quadruplet superheroes trying to defeat a corrupt government. The other was about a dystopia where literally every world problem occurred, from war to family vlogging channels. And the third was about, because I was, and still am, a has-been and Good Omens fangirl, an angel and a demon being guardians of a girl who could not enter heaven or hell due to wanting revenge against her murderer.
As you can all see by the whole fuck authority angle all these stories seem to have.
They were made during my middle school years, when I was realizing how fucked up the world was, so I wrote it into all my stories.
Eventually relying on these overly edgy moments to keep me intrigued in the stories.
Instead of, making unique worlds and multifaceted characters for me to get attached to. Basically, I liked specific moments I wrote for these characters more than the characters themselves. Which, guiltily, is something I still struggle to this day. But at least I know I have a problem. I can stop it anytime I want. Anyways, you're probably wondering how a Pokemon story of all things ties into me abandoning multiple series into the abyss, never to be seen again. Well, it all started 3 years ago, when, like most days, me and my sister began watching something and started to obsess over it for about a month. Specifically, my sister found a Steven Universe fan series online, and the two of us began to watch it. This series was a big deal for me at the time, because I had never seen a fan animated series before. I had seen comics and fanfics, of course, but I've never seen a fan-animated series based on another show's universe before. The following lines were going to be about me gushing over the series, but in light of some recent information, I'm changing how I present my thoughts on the series as a whole. The series was called Division, and I say was because it's not happening anymore. Because the creator, Gemtrovert, was talking to minors. Their friend Kinsey's found out about this, and he hasn't been online since. Oh, why are all show creators secretly awful people? The previous statement may be exaggerated, but seriously, what Gemtrovert did was disgusting. And I'm so glad that he can't use his power online to hurt any more minors. Honestly, I don't want to compliment this series because I don't want to skim over the fact that this person has committed horrible actions. But at the same time, I want to be honest with everyone about the impact the series had on me. So here I go. I think this series beautifully crafted the perfect continuation to the OG series, because it showed gems living their normal lives on Earth while still being scarred by Homeworld's effects. Which is what inspired me to think of possibly doing a fan series of my own. God, I hate giving bad people credit for things. You know, something else about this series that I didn't even realize at the time is that it never took any official Steven Universe characters for its story. All the gems were solely the creator's design. And I learned that this is of utmost importance when creating an indie series inspired by an official piece of work, due to the issues surrounding another fan-made spin-off I enjoyed called Total Drama Reunion, which, if you couldn't tell, is a fan series inspired by the Canadian show Total Drama Island. Basically, to summarize the whole situation, a team of people called Blue Studios was creating a fan continuation of Total Drama, where in it the original cast is forced back on the island due to a deranged Chris McClain wanting the show back on the air, and as someone who hates when characters act dumb for no reason, I love the angle this continuation took of these psychologically abused teens being forced to relive their trauma because of a deranged host who just couldn't let go of the past. Unfortunately, this series would not continue though, as Fresh TV, the studio that produced Total Drama, sued the producers of Reunion, even though Blue Studios never stated that this was an original work and they only wanted to show their love to Total Drama. And Fresh TV even tried to cancel another Total Drama fan series called Disventure Camp. But they weren't successful in canceling that series due to a name change along with not having any canon characters from the original. I've also seen this happen to multiple MLP series being taken down by Hasbro, either for using original MLP characters or just for having a similar animation style to the series. You see, when it comes to fan projects, it's difficult to do them in the same medium as the original piece of animation, because fan comics and fanfics are okay. But But the moment you use an animation style that's similar to the original, then you'll get sued no matter what the circumstances were. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying studios shouldn't fight back against lazy knockoffs of their properties that were made just to try and steal for an easy buck. But unfortunately, that means that good-hearted creators who just want to show the series they adore a little extra love are punished by corporations who refuse to hear them out. With all that being said, do you think that I decided that maybe I shouldn't create this series? Haha, nope! Instead, I think I found a way to glide past those little issues from before. But first, let's go back to when I was brainstorming what spin-off I should do. Because obviously I couldn't do my own Steven Universe fan series. But then the idea hit me. I thought back to the very first hyperfixation I ever had, and decided I should do a Pokemon fan series.
Now you may be thinking, Hope, what are you thinking? Pokemon is huge, they're gonna sue you to oblivion. But you see, that's why I believe it might be perfect. Because Pokemon is so old and so huge that they may not care what a little old indie artist is doing. This might sound a little naive, I know.
But recently I have been seeing another incredibly talented artist called I'm Not Ali Z creating a Team Rocket fan series. And they seem to have no problems. This series is really good, by the way, so if you're a Team Rocket fan, or just a Pokemon fan in general, you should definitely watch it. Links to the channel are on the description below. There is more proof, though, as to why I think this Pokemon fan series will survive. I'm also not going to use an anime art style to tell this story. I'm going to be utilizing a more cartoon-like style of animation, in order to stop the comparisons between the Pokemon Company's piece of work to mine. Plus, I think a cartoony-like art style works well for the lighthearted nature of this series. Also because I'm not really good at drawing in an anime art style yet, and I'm more comfortable drawing in my natural Steven Universe art style. And thirdly, this series will not be called Pokemon. Let me explain. I'm taking a note out of Disventure Camp's book, calling the series something different than its original. Simply calling the series Calathea. With brackets to the side, calling it a Pokemon fan series, of course. It was originally going to be called Pokemon Calathea, as an homage to the Pokemon game's names. But after what happened to Reunion, I changed the name to just Calathea. Lastly, why I think this series will do great despite what copyright claims says, is because even though I'm utilizing some notable characters like Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy sometimes, and of course the titular Pokemon, I'm not using any of the main cast from the previous series. Because that's the real beauty of Pokemon, that anyone can have a story in this world, not just some 10-year-old with daddy issues, anyone. It's such an expansive universe that you can follow any trainer and have something to intrigue you about their journey. So let me explain to you some things about my story, so that way you can get a vague idea on how certain things will take place. As us Pokemon fans know, most trainers start their journey at age 10. But as people in real life know, this would be a terrible idea considering how young these kids are. Especially with the superpowered mafias that are just roaming around on every road. So for my story, I've aged up my main lead and her besties to be 15 at the start of their journeys. And for them only to be able to travel once their parents give signed permission to the local professor, or who's ever sponsoring their journey. I think these slight changes would make my story more believable, even if it still would never happen in real life. Another difference in my story is that the main character won't travel with any human companions. She does have 2 human besties, but they aren't main characters and are more secondary/supporting characters. This is because I want my story to develop the bond between my main girl, Macy, and her partner Pokemon, Bud.
Before we talk about them, though, let's talk about Macy's best human friends ever, as those two, along with Macy and Bud, are the first characters I ever made for the series. First, let's start with Arthur, or as Macy so affectionately calls him, Archie. Arthur is a snarky, flamboyant child who, although confident in the presence of his friends, is quite nervous about the real world, as he's never ventured outside of Pallet Town. He is especially scared around ghost types due to a childhood incident involving candlesticks and an unnecessarily cruel prank, which is why he never left his little town before. Despite being a little dramatic, he is still the most realistic and rational of the trio, being the voice of reason when the 3 are together. He is also the hardest worker, constantly practicing to achieve his dreams of becoming top coordinator. It's due to his drive to be successful that pushed Arthur to leave Pallet Town. He also cares deeply about his friends and tries to keep them out of trouble, which proves to be quite difficult with his besties. His design was originally supposed to have brown spiky hair to go along with his nervous personality, but now that I'm leaning more into the drama queen angle for him instead, and also because I thought his hair looked way too similar to another character in the series, I decided to give him a more slick style haircut to make him look more fancy and to showcase his ties to the life of a coordinator. Basically, he's like Rarity if Rarity was as level-headed as Applejack. Next, we have the Jacks of our group, Ozzy O'Kurt, who comes off as a bit of an asshole, but they are furiously loyal to their friends and family. Ozzy enjoys pranking friends and strangers alike every now and again. They also have quite a big mouth, and can be seen as rude to people who are unfamiliar with them and their antics. These morals, or lack thereof, were given to them by their brother. Their codependence on him is why they never left Pallet Town once they moved there. Their goal is to become a Pokemon champion, like their brother wanted to before. But they aren't as smart about following their dreams as Arthur is, which annoys their friend to no end. They may not be a planner by nature, but they are pretty street smart and can read people fairly well. So their assholery, isn't just due to them being a jerk. They are also quite the flirt, which may be played for gags depending on how often we see them on screen. They may be a troubled child, but they will never abandon their team and will always tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it. Their design was made to be inspired by the Pokemon champion Alder, because I thought their personalities were kind of similar with their whole go-with-the-flow approach to life. And because the look of the Pokeballs hanging onto his outfit are sick as hell. I also thought the leather jacket would give off the vibe of a Pokemon trainer, so that's why I decided to go with that. I also wanted their design to look more edgy to go with their whole punk rebel personality phase they got going on. So far, all that's changed is the nose and the shoes, but since the series is still in early development, that could easily change. Now we got the best girl, my fave, our main character, Macy. I think she's my fave due to her bubbly, positive personality. She's an endless ray of sunshine. But unlike Steven or Wander, who will forgive anyone who's wronged them, Macy kinda lacks that maturity, instead acting more like Molly McGee or Poppy. Like someone who will desperately try to be your friend. But if you cross her or her team, she will come back at you with a vengeance. She lacks the emotional maturity to forgive villains, as she sees the world as black and white, good versus evil. She doesn't really understand the emotional complexities behind actions. She just sees them as a bad guy that needs to be stopped at all costs. She also has a bit of a big mouth like her friend Ozzy. But unlike Ozzy, who is completely aware of their shithead behavior, Macy either A, has no idea that her comments are rude, or B, is so angry at this person's apparent evilness that she will completely destroy them and their character. Despite her lack of maturity, she loves like a mother hen, and always gives to friends and strangers alike all the love and support they'll ever need. I wanted her design to be a dress because I thought it would showcase her free-spirited mindset, along with an untied shoe to showcase her lack of responsibilities yet. The leaves on her dress are inspired by the name of the show, as those are the real-life Calathea plants, and they represent her journey in the show of becoming a more mature, grown person. Macy's design really hasn't changed much since her conception, except now she has a more rounded face, to showcase her cotton candy-like sweetness. Now let me introduce you to her starter Pokemon, Bud. Now you may notice something a little off about him. He has a name? Yep, in my story, all Macy's Pokemon have names, because I wanted to showcase Macy's Pokemon more like individuals rather than animals. But the in-story reason for this is that I wanted to showcase both Macy's oddball personality in naming her Pokemon, and showcase how she views her Pokemon as her equals. Oh yeah, and also Bud's a sparrow, what's up with that? Well, he was originally gonna be a Bulbasaur, hence the name Bud. And also because I think Bulbasaur is super underappreciated. And I also wanted half of Macy's team to consist of underappreciated Mon, to give these Pokemon a spotlight that the main anime never gives it. But as I was creating this series, I realized that there was another Gen 1 Pokemon that was even more underutilized than Bulbasaur, Sparrow. Because think about it. There are rarely any trainers in the anime that have them. And the wild ones are always the bad guys. Sparrow doesn't deserve this. Pidgey not only got full episodes dedicated to it, but its evolution is one of the main character's first Pokemon. Which is why I changed Bud to a Sparrow, in order to give this vilified Pokemon a chance to shine. There's not much to Bud's design, honestly, except for a flower that's been there since his Bulbasaur design era. What he lacks in design, though, he more than makes up for in his sarcastic, tired, old man personality. Yeah, Bud's kind of a grump. A very cynical guy to counteract Macy's happy-go-lucky worldview. He's got his reasons to fear others, though, which I'm not gonna tell you. What, I gotta leave something secret for the series. He's kinda like Scratch from Ghost and Molly McGee, in that he comes off as jerkish at first, but as the series goes on, he grows to care about his trainer, and goes on to do anything to protect her. He also really loves to battle, which kinda goes against his trainer's no battling philosophy. But that philosophy is thrown straight out the window when either A, Bud really wants to battle, or B, someone really pisses Macy off. Bud stopped battling for a while though, due to unknown reasons, but never quite lost that competitive edge to him, constantly trying to one-up jerkish Pokemon, or anyone he's just annoyed with, honestly. Basically, he's Macy's one brain cell until he becomes petty, in which case all logic is lost. He's also very protective over Macy, seeing her as a child that needs to be protected at all costs. Same, Bud. Same. And those are my first few characters I created for Calathea. As you can all see, I got a pretty good grasp of these characters after knowing them for so long. But there's still much work to be done. I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was worried about this story becoming like my other stories, a forgotten memory. But surprisingly, that never happened. For the first time ever, I've gone back to a story and completely revised the characters' arcs. In a way, it feels like these characters have grown alongside me. And yes, I am still fearful of the idea that this series could be copyrighted out of existence. But I'm gonna try to create this, because not only do I believe in the magic of Pokemon, but I believe in the magic of my own characters. And I believe that they're gonna make a difference, because to me, they already have. And I think their journeys will bring a new, refreshing spin to the franchise. I have millions of other ideas for this series, but so I don't end up spoiling them, I think I'm gonna end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I still got a long ways to go before I create this series, so I hope you'll stick around for the ride. I want to try to focus on my own characters in these videos, so that way it'll force me to write for them more. I'm sorry it's been so long, guys. I'm in college now, which is really eating up the time, but I'm going to try my best to keep working hard. Until next time, see you later, Gators and Animators. Bye!